You've been overlooked, dismissed, rejected, but the tables are turning and they don't see it coming. She thought the power she had over you was permanent, that you'd be waiting when she was done living her best life. But now the illusion is cracking. She thought you weren't good enough. Now you're exactly what she needs, and you've moved on. Men, this is where you take control. Comment, "I know my worth," if you're ready to see exactly why this shift in power is happening, and why you, as a man, hold the keys to the future. Stay with me to the end of this video. This truth will change how you approach relationships forever. She believed the world was built around her. The compliments, the attention, the endless opportunities. She thought they were hers by birthright. Society told her she could have it all. The luxury lifestyle, the high-paying job, the freedom to date the bad boys while ignoring the men who would actually commit to her. And she believed it, because in her 20s, it felt true. She had her pick of men. She didn't need to settle because she thought her options were endless. Every night out was a validation of her power, and every new match on a dating app was a reminder that she was in control. But what no one told her, what society deliberately hid from her, is that her power had an expiration date. Now she's 30. The attention isn't the same. The texts don't come like they used to. The men who once chased her are now thriving with other women, women who didn't waste their prime years chasing temporary thrills. And she's sitting there, wondering where it all went wrong. The truth is, she spent her 20s overvaluing herself and undervaluing the men who could have built a life with her. The clock was ticking, but she never heard it. And now, the same men she ignored have the power to choose, and they're not choosing her. Men, this isn't just her story. This is the story of modern dating, a game that's been rigged against you for too long. But the good news? The game is changing. You have the power now, and this video will show you exactly why understanding your value is the key to winning. This isn't about revenge. This is about taking back control. Stay until the end, because once you see the full picture, you'll never look at dating the same way again. Number 1. The uncomfortable truth. Forget what society has been screaming in your face. Forget the advice from self-help books that tell you to be nicer or understand her needs. Today we're talking about the reality of modern relationships and why women's value in the dating market is not what they've been led to believe. You've been lied to, and more importantly, women have been lied to. That's why so many of them hit a wall they never saw coming. A wall you need to understand if you want to navigate the dating world like a man who's fully awake and in control. Imagine a woman in her early 20s. She's got everything working in her favor: youth, beauty, and an aura of confidence that comes from being constantly validated by men. At this stage, she's like a kid in a candy store. She gets attention without even trying. Men approach her, buy her drinks, offer to pay for dinner, and shower her with compliments. She's got more options than she can count, and she genuinely believes that this is her life forever. The world has conditioned her to think that she's inherently valuable, that she doesn't have to do anything other than exist to be desired. And here's the kicker. At this point, she's right. Men are biologically programmed to chase beauty and youth, and when she's in her prime, she can have almost any man she wants. But what she doesn't understand, and what most men don't realize, is that this phase comes with an expiration date, and when it expires, reality hits like a freight train. Here's where it gets painful to watch. She spends her 20s living it up, rejecting good men left and right because she thinks she can always do better. She's chasing the thrill of excitement, the bad boys, the high-status guys who give her a taste of the lifestyle she craves but never commit to her. She's constantly swiping on dating apps, discarding men like yesterday's news, believing there's always a better option one swipe away. And for a while, it works. She gets the attention, she gets the validation, she gets the rush of knowing that men want her. But underneath all of it is a ticking time bomb that she doesn't even hear. Men, here's what you need to understand. This ticking time bomb is not just her problem. It affects you too, because women who reach their 30s and realize they've wasted their prime years often turn to men like you for a bailout. They come to you after rejecting you when they were younger. They come to you when they've burned out all their options and need someone to save them from their own bad decisions. They'll tell you they've changed, that they've grown, that they're ready to settle down and be serious. But what they're really saying is, I've lost my leverage, and now I need you to fix my life. At some point, usually around the age of 30, she starts to notice that the attention she once took for granted isn't the same. The texts don't come as frequently. The men who used to chase her have stopped. She goes out with her friends, expecting the same flood of compliments and offers. But it's different now. The younger women are the ones getting all the attention, and she's left wondering what changed. She tries harder. New outfits, more makeup, a more active presence on social media. But no matter what she does, she can't recreate the magic of her early 20s. The men she wants, successful, high-value men, are now dating younger, more feminine women who bring something fresh to the table. And this is when the panic sets in. When a woman hits this point, she starts to realize that the men she rejected in her 20s, the nice guys, the men who were building themselves but didn't have much to offer at the time, are now the men she wants. But those men have evolved. They've spent the last decade grinding, improving themselves, and becoming the kind of men who have options. And the brutal truth is, they're no longer interested in her. Why would they be? They know their value now. They know they don't have to settle for a woman who only sees their worth after exhausting her other options. This is where the game flips, and the men who were once ignored become the ones with the power to choose. But it's not just about rejecting her now. It's about understanding the dynamics at play so you don't get trapped. She'll use every trick in the book to convince you that she's different, that she's ready to be the woman you need. She'll bring up her career, her accomplishments, her independence, thinking these things will impress you. But men don't care about those things. You're not looking for a competitor. You're looking for a complement. You're looking for a woman who can support your vision, bring peace into your life, and create a home, not a woman who spent the last decade treating men like accessories. Understand this. You don't owe her anything. You don't owe her your time, your resources, or your commitment just because she's finally realized the truth about her situation. The attention she took for granted was never a guarantee. It was a privilege. And when she wasted that privilege, she made her choice. Don't be the man who cleans up the mess she created. Be the man who recognizes your own value and sets standards that align with the life you've built. Number 2. Societal lie breakdown. Modern society isn't just failing women, it's actively sabotaging them. From the moment they're old enough to understand the world, women are bombarded with messages that inflate their sense of entitlement and disconnect them from reality. They're told they're queens, goddesses, and bosses just for existing. They're taught that men should worship them, that they should never settle, and that their careers and independence are more important than family and relationships. And for a while this messaging works. It gives them a false sense of power, a belief that they can have it all without making any sacrifices. But what no one tells them is that this power is temporary and conditional. And when it runs out, they're left with nothing but regret. Think about how damaging this is. Women are told to prioritize their education, their careers, and their personal freedom above all else. They're told that settling down too early is a sign of failure, that focusing on a man is betraying their independence. But here's the truth that society won't admit. Women who follow this path often end up alone and unfulfilled. They achieve success in their careers, but go home to an empty apartment. They have money in the bank but no one to share it with. And when they finally decide they want a family, they realize they've missed their window of opportunity. But it doesn't stop there. Society also feeds women the lie that men are the problem. If a woman is single, it's because men are intimidated by her success. If a relationship fails, it's because the man didn't appreciate her worth. This victim mentality prevents women from taking accountability for their choices. They're encouraged to blame everyone but themselves, which only perpetuates their unhappiness. And men, you need to understand this dynamic because it directly affects you. When a woman refuses to take responsibility for her situation, she'll project that blame onto you. She'll expect you to fix her life, to provide the stability and commitment she neglected to build for herself. Here's where things get dangerous for men who don't see the trap coming. When a woman reaches her 30s and realizes she's been sold a lie, she'll start looking for a man who can give her what she wants: security, commitment, and a future. But she's not looking for a partnership. She's looking for a rescue mission. She wants you to save her from the consequences of her own decisions. And if you're not careful, you'll end up being the man who sacrifices everything for a woman who only sees your value when it's convenient for her. But it doesn't have to be this way. As men, you have the power to set the terms of your relationships. You have the power to walk away from situations that don't serve you. Women who understand this dynamic and take accountability for their choices can still find happiness. But those who cling to the societal lie that they're entitled to everything without giving anything in return will continue to struggle. And it's not your job to fix them. Your job is to focus on your own growth, build your value, and only invest in relationships that align with your vision for the future. Men, wake up to the reality of modern relationships. Women have been set up to fail, but that doesn't mean you have to be the one to catch them when they fall. Recognize your value, set your standards, and never settle for less than what you deserve. Because in the end, the man who knows his worth is the man who wins. Number 3. The turning point, when the illusion shatters. Men, this is where the shift happens. The moment where everything she believed starts crumbling and she realizes the world she thought would always favor her doesn't owe her anything. She's not the first woman to experience it, and she won't be the last. But what's important for you is understanding how this affects you, because when her world collapses, some of those pieces are going to land in your lap, and you better be prepared to handle them like a man who knows his worth. For most women, the turning point isn't dramatic. It doesn't hit them like a single life event that instantly wakes them up. It's more like a series of slow, painful realizations, each one stripping away another layer of the illusion they've lived under for years. It starts when they notice the attention is fading. She used to walk into a room and feel the energy shift because men couldn't take their eyes off her. Now, she walks into the same room and the younger women get all the looks. She posts pictures on social media, hoping for the flood of likes and comments that used to validate her, but the notifications are fewer, and the men liking her pictures aren't the high-value guys she once attracted. They're the men she would have ignored when she was 23. This is when the panic begins to set in. She tries to convince herself it's temporary, that she just needs to try harder, but deep down she knows something has changed. By this point, she's already started comparing herself to younger women. This is important for you to understand, because comparison is what breaks the illusion. When she sees 22-year-olds getting the attention she used to get effortlessly, it forces her to confront the reality that her value in the dating market isn't what it used to be. Men aren't messaging her the way they once did. And when they do, they aren't the successful, attractive men she feels entitled to. They're the men she rejected when she thought she had better options. This is when she realizes the difference between attention and genuine value. Men gave her attention when she was young and beautiful, but she assumed that attention would translate into long-term commitment whenever she was ready to settle down. She thought she controlled the timeline, that she could focus on herself and come back to the dating market whenever it suited her. But the truth is, men control commitment, and once they've built themselves into high-value men, they have no reason to commit to a woman who spent her prime rejecting good options. This is where the regret kicks in, and it's brutal. She thinks back to the men she dismissed, the men who weren't rich or exciting enough at the time, but who were building something. She remembers the guy who wanted to marry her when she was 25, the guy who treated her with respect but wasn't fun enough for her taste. Now, those men are successful, married, and building families with women who didn't waste their time playing games. And she's left with nothing but her career, which, ironically, doesn't give her the emotional fulfillment she thought it would. Men, you need to understand how this affects you. When she hits this turning point, she'll come looking for you. She'll come to you with stories about how she's changed, how she's learned from her mistakes, and how she's ready to be the woman you deserve. She'll try to convince you that she's serious now, that she's ready to settle down and be a good partner. But the truth is, she's not looking for love. She's looking for security. She's looking for someone to save her from the consequences of her bad decisions. And if you don't recognize this, you'll end up being the man who sacrifices everything for a woman who wouldn't have given you the time of day when she had better options. Don't be that man. Don't let her turning point become your downfall. You've spent years building yourself, improving your life, and becoming a high-value man. You don't owe her anything. She made her choices, and she has to live with them. Your job is to protect your value and only invest in women who bring value to your life. A woman who hits this turning point and genuinely understands the mistakes she made can be a good partner, but only if she's willing to bring humility and contribution to the table. You're not looking for someone to rescue, you're looking for someone to build with. If she can't offer that, walk away. There's no shortage of women who will recognize your value without needing to hit rock bottom first. The turning point is where the roles reverse. Men who were once ignored become the ones with the power to choose. And the women who thought they had all the time in the world are the ones begging for a second chance. But as a man who understands his worth, you don't give out second chances to someone who only sees your value now that she's run out of options. You're not her plan B, you're her missed opportunity, and she's going to have to live with that. Fourth, male value versus female value. Men, your value and a woman's value operate on completely different timelines. And understanding this difference is what separates men who win in the dating market from those who get taken advantage of. Women are born with value, youth, beauty, and fertility. These are biological assets that men are wired to find attractive because they signal the potential to build a family. But unlike a man's value, which can grow over time, a woman's value in the dating market starts high and decreases if she doesn't invest in the things that matter to men long term. This is the harsh contrast that modern society refuses to acknowledge, but you need to understand it if you want to avoid being the man who gets used as a safety net. When a woman is in her 20s, she's at the peak of her value. She doesn't have to do much to attract attention from men because her youth and beauty are enough. But what most women don't realize is that this attention is temporary. It's not based on who they are as individuals. It's based on what they represent biologically. And if they don't leverage this attention to secure a committed, high-value man during their prime years, they lose their advantage as they age. The men who once chased them aren't interested anymore because they've built themselves into men who have options. And those options often include younger, more cooperative women who understand what men value. Your value, on the other hand, is something you have to build. You're not born with it. No one is going to hand you success, respect, or options in the dating market. You have to earn them. You spend your 20s grinding, improving your physique, building your career, and developing the confidence that comes from knowing you've put in the work. And by the time you reach your 30s or 40s, you're in your prime. This is when the dating market flips in your favor, because the same women who ignored you when you were younger are now trying to get your attention, but you're no longer interested in settling for less than what you deserve. This is where many men go wrong. They don't recognize their own value because they've spent so long being told that they're not good enough. They've internalized the rejection they experienced in their 20s and think they're lucky if any woman shows interest in them. But you're not lucky. You're valuable. You've built yourself into a man who has options, and you don't need to settle for a woman who only sees your worth after she's lost hers. The men who win in the dating market are the ones who understand this dynamic and refuse to let their past experiences dictate their future choices. When you understand the contrast between male and female value, you see the game for what it is. You see that women who wasted their prime years chasing excitement and rejecting good men are not your responsibility. You see that your time, energy, and resources are valuable, and you don't give them away to someone who hasn't earned them. The harsh truth is that many women only realize what they want after it's too late, and you're not obligated to be the man who gives them what they missed out on. Your job is to focus on your own growth, build your value, and only invest in relationships that align with the life you've worked so hard to create. The difference between winning and losing in the dating market comes down to one thing: understanding your value. Women who understand their value early on can secure a high-value man before their options run out. But men who understand their value later in life are the ones who get to choose, and those choices should never be made out of guilt or obligation. You're the prize, and it's time you start acting like it. Men understand this. You are not a backup plan. You are not a safety net for someone who spent her prime years chasing thrills and now wants you to clean up the mess. Your value is earned through years of work, sacrifice, and discipline. You've built yourself into a man of worth, and that worth demands respect. Don't waste it on someone who only wants you because she ran out of better options. The men who win are the ones who know their power and refuse to settle for anything less than a woman who sees it from the start. Protect your value, protect your peace, and remember, you choose, not them. If you've listened this far, it's because you're serious about becoming the man you were meant to be. Comment, "I know my value." Hit that subscribe button and help push this message to the men who need it. YouTube rewards engagement, and together we'll wake up a generation of men who know their worth.